So chapter 7 of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex is finally here, and as we discussed in the spoilers, Mitsuki got absolutely washed by Boruto. And he also revealed that Kawaki isn't as strong as we thought he was. So we have a lot of power scaling to discuss in this chapter review. With that said, what I found most interesting is what Boruto said about omnipotence and how it truly works in this universe. So we're gonna get to that of course, but of course we're gonna start from the top. So the person on the cover for this month is Mitsuki, and that of course is because he's the main focus of the chapter itself. Now the title of the chapter is The Whereabouts of the Sun, which more so refers to Mitsuki's internal dialogue in the first portion of this chapter. So the chapter opens with Mitsuki saying that he's the moon hovering in the darkness without any light of his own to cast. He then says that is why he needs his son Kawaki to illuminate him, thus causing him to shine as well. Now initially when I saw this in the spoilers, I thought this happened when Mitsuki put him to sleep using the garden snake, but based on the scenery shown in this panel, it seems like this happened some time ago. Possibly during training due to the dust shown in the background, but it could be that Mitsuki is just making this up in his mind, so this isn't anything concrete. But that's when we switch over to Mitsuki charging in at Boruto at full speed it seems, and Boruto seems completely unbothered by this. He then tried to attack Mitsuki using some shurikens, but Mitsuki was easily able to deflect them using some chakra snakes. Boruto then showed that he's superior in speed, well at least in comparison to the snakes themselves, by easily dodging them, and then teleporting to the shuriken Mitsuki deflected into the tree using Flying Thunder God. Now this part was very interesting to me because again, we see that Boruto used Flying Thunder God using two hands, but then when we go back to the 10 Tails dimension, he used it using one hand. And when you go back to chapter 6, he used it with both hands there as well. So the logical assumption in this case would be that he needs both hands to travel short distances, but he only needs one hand to travel long distances. But then when you go back to chapter 3, he used both hands to travel to the 10 Tails dimension, but was later able to use one hand to leave the 10 Tails dimension. But then you can make the logical argument that Boruto is now familiar with the 10 Tails dimension, so he doesn't need to use two hands anymore. Though that argument then brings you back to the fact that Boruto used both hands to teleport to his own sword and also to his own shuriken, which are both familiar locations. Now someone did make the argument that Boruto does both hands to do it faster, but then when you go back to the Bug Shinju fight, he was fighting a more powerful enemy than Mitsuki as it seems. He still used one hand to escape the attack itself. So it seems like he doesn't need two hands to do it quickly. So it seems a bit convoluted, but of course we're gonna learn more later on. Now Boruto doesn't care about Mitsuki of course because he knows Mitsuki can't beat him, so he's asking, yo, where's Kawaki? Maybe he's hiding in the bushes or something. But Shikamaru is listening to the conversation, so he chimes in letting Boruto know that Mitsuki took him out using the garden snake, so he should be fine. And that's when Mitsuki chimed in saying that I think I understand your power level. It must be way off the charts to make cold retreat, which tells me that Kawaki is no match for you. I can't let him get himself killed no matter the cost. Boruto then replied to Mitsuki saying that if he doesn't stand a chance against me, neither do you. So this fight is pointless. Mitsuki then says that the other reason why he left Kawaki behind is so that he can let loose completely without deferring to him. Boruto then replied saying, what do you mean? Mitsuki then says, that's between me and him. Now this dialogue here is weird to me because why did Boruto ask him what do you mean? And why did Mitsuki say that's between me and him? Because what Mitsuki meant is fairly obvious. He said he wants to let loose completely without deferring to Kawaki, which simply means that Mitsuki wants to fight Boruto without having Kawaki involved. So why did Boruto ask him what does he mean, and why did Mitsuki say that's between me and him? It seems weird. So unless this dialogue is meant to mean something else, this question just doesn't make sense to me. But aside from that, it seems like this is saying that Kawaki, current Kawaki, is below current Boruto. Now this might be exciting for Boruto fans of course, but I want to tell you guys to just hold up a bit because we can't really take this statement by Mitsuki to be 100% true, right? And again, we don't know which Kawaki this applies to. We have to assume based on what Mitsuki is saying here that he has seen full power Kawaki, which would be the Kawaki using the horn. Now it would be wild to think that Kawaki would ever go into this state to fight anyone aside from Boruto, because why would he need to? And even when he was fighting Boruto atop the monument, he didn't go into that state either. So I don't know how Mitsuki would know full power Kawaki to make this statement, so it would be wild to just take it at face value. But at the same time, you can look at this from a narrative standpoint, that this is what the writer wants to convey. This wasn't the best way to do it in my opinion, but the writer wants you to know that current Boruto is above current Kawaki. But then when you make Mitsuki make this statement, it makes it questionable, you know. But this is good for the Boruto manga, because of course you're gonna have people making videos talking about it. It will create a discourse about the power scaling in Boruto. So this is good for the Boruto manga for people to talk about it, but at the same time, it doesn't really convey concretely what the writer wants to convey, in my opinion. But I personally think that it makes sense for Boruto to be stronger since he trained for 3 years, and it seems like Kawaki didn't, based on him getting off guarded by a garden snake and a claw grind. Okay, so I think it's true, but I just don't think that this was the best way to convey it. Okay, now let's move on. Now that's when you see Mitsuki create some snakes using his body, some actual snakes, and then transform them into clones of himself, and these clones all have Sage mode activated, so that's pretty insane. Now of course this isn't a match for Boruto. Mitsuki basically divided his power at this point. Like, you're getting overwhelmed, why would you divide your power to make yourself weaker? Because that's what a clone does, it divides your power equally amongst the clones. So Mitsuki divides his power. Boruto's like, yo, more isn't necessarily better, you know that, right? And Mitsuki then proceeded to destroy the entire forest, telling Boruto that he needs to die and all that stuff. Boruto replied saying that I may be to blame for sure, but I can't die yet. I have tons of things to do, which is why I don't have time to play around. So that's when Boruto goes on the offensive, actually speed blitzes Mitsuki, swipes away all of his clones using his purple lightning infused sword, and then easily counters Mitsuki's snake lightning. Again, this is Mitsuki amped in Sage mode by using his own lightning jutsu in base. So again, like, Mitsuki is completely outmatched in this fight. With that said, that's when the fight itself ended, because Boruto uses the smoke created by the attack to then blitz Mitsuki and put his sword right beside of his neck. So the fight is basically over at this point. But that's when we move into the Talk no Jutsu portion of the chapter here. Mitsuki is basically telling Boruto to go ahead, get it over with. Boruto's like, yo, you think you came here prepared to die, when in fact it's that you've lost hope. It's because your faith has been shaken. What you believe in, or rather what you want to believe in, you can no longer trust. Boruto then says, Kawaki, the sun that had been illuminating you so far, lost its radiance at some point. Isn't that what you feel? Boruto then tells Mitsuki that he does know the location of his son. He then says, I'm your son, it's that simple. Mitsuki then tried to attack him using one of his snakes, but pauses mid-attack because he feels like something is off. Boruto then says that I bet you came to realize this quite a while back, that Kawaki isn't your son. And of course Mitsuki is confused, like, this can't be, it's not possible. Boruto's like, yo, it's natural that you feel confused, yet you know it's true, for you're the only one who gets to decide what it takes to be your son. That's when Mitsuki decides to remove the snake from around Boruto's body, and Boruto tells him that he has no intention of killing Kawaki. That's a misunderstanding. Though he then tells him that he still needs to settle things with Kawaki at some point, but that's between bros, just the two of them. Mitsuki then asked him why did he kill Lord Seventh, and Boruto replied saying that Lord Seventh is alive and safe, and so is his wife as well. That's all I can say. Boruto then pretty much tells Mitsuki that he believes that he's perfectly capable of shining on his own, but if he insists that he does need a son, he can come find him anytime he wants to. And I have to say that this part is the best part, or the most important part for me, because the entire thing around Boruto being Mitsuki's son and Mitsuki needing Boruto, like, it sounds cool, like, it sounds great for Boruto, but it isn't good for Mitsuki. Like, Mitsuki needs to be his own person. So if Boruto just went on to say that, yo, I'm your son and you need me, not Kawaki, I would think that it's really manipulative. But since Boruto literally said to him like, yo bro, you can shine on your own, it seems that Boruto wants him to like take that step forward, but he's not gonna throw him into the river and tell him, yo, learn to swim. Instead, he says to Mitsuki that you can be your own son, you can shine on your own, but if you need a son, I can be that son. You know, it seems a bit cringy, but I can get where he's coming from. Now this might seem minuscule in the grand scheme of things, but what I really loved about the chapter as well is the reactions to the information being shared here. Like Ino being shocked at Naruto being alive and stumbling back on the chair and stuff. Like, that was pretty nice. It has this emotional weight to it, because as you guys know, they've known each other their entire lives. So just imagine someone dies and then 3 years later you hear that they're still alive. It would be a shock to the system. But with that said, we then move over to Kawaki finally waking up from being negged by a garden snake. So he's like, yo, where's Mitsuki? He's really angry. Of course, Kawaki's always angry. But we then switched over to Boruto talking with Shikamaru. And it seems that they had an entire conversation off screen, because Shikamaru then says, so in summary, thanks to Ada's Shinjutsu known as omnipotence, our memories have all been rewritten to reflect Kawaki's desires. Boruto then says, yeah, just so you know, don't bother trying to figure out how omnipotence actually works. You'll soon forget it anyway. In fact, this is far from the first time you're hearing about it. Sarada and class rep, which is referring to Sumire, have already told you about it numerous times. Shikamaru then says, no way. Boruto then says that the very concept of omnipotence won't stick in your memory ever. It just fades away over time. That's part of its power. He then says that I need you to trust that Kawaki and I have switched places without any proof. Though you did figure it out on your own, that's no mean feat. It's damn impressive. So that's why if you go back to chapter 5, it seems like Sasuke forgot about what omnipotence does or what it is, but he still believed that Boruto is Boruto. The ability itself not only forces you to ignore contradictions, it also forces you to forget about what the ability itself is. So it's pretty broken. Boruto then tells Shikamaru that they can't reverse it. Those altered memories are all real to them now. He then says, besides, even if we could, it wouldn't resolve the issues between me and him. He then says Kawaki sealed that away in order to protect him, so there's no point unless he's satisfied and undoes it himself. Otherwise, he's just bound to do it again. Now, some people have misinterpreted this, saying that Kawaki can undo omnipotence, but that's not what Boruto is saying. He's just saying that if they don't fix the root cause of the issue, which is Kawaki wanting to protect Naruto, they can't really prevent this from happening again if they do reverse it, because again, Kawaki can just seal Naruto again in Daikokuten if he gets the chance to do it, and also he can maybe go through Ada to cause omnipotence one more time. But that's when Shikamaru brought up the possibility of that, yo, if I were you, I would just rescue Naruto and kill Kawaki, because if Kawaki's dead, then he can't do it again. But Boruto is like, yo, he may want to kill me, but I don't feel the same. I just want to slug him and then make up, that is all. So Boruto is just encapsulating Naruto at this point. Like, that's when I hear people saying that Boruto is nothing like Naruto. It's just so weird to me. Like, his entire like belief system is what Naruto's belief system is. They operate in the same way. Of course, they might have different demeanors at some point, and they might have some different qualities, of course. But again, even so, at their core, they're still the same. But at the same time, Shikamaru has to be realistic here, so it tells Boruto that if you have no intent to kill Kawaki, you need to understand that you have to continue taking the blame for Naruto. Seeing as omnipotence's effect lies with Kawaki, I'd like to avoid making him feel cornered again, which means not exposing what he did quite yet. So you'll need to stay a fugitive. Is that okay? Boruto then says, yeah, that's fine. I wasn't expecting otherwise. And that's when we move over to Jura having this conversation with Hidari, it seems. And he's like, it's curious, this world. The more knowledge I acquire, the more questions arise, and the more things I don't know. If anything, the knowledge reveals my ignorance. It's fascinating. By the way, it's been gradually occurring to me that none of these books here seems to hold the answers to my questions. So let's pay a visit to Uzumaki Naruto. And that's where the chapter ends. So yeah, this chapter was Mitsuki getting his ass whooped the entire time, which is crazy. And I've taken so much abuse from Mitsuki letting me down, bro. Like, bro really let me down. But of course, you know, it is what it is. Boruto was going to be stronger, but by this much is absolutely insane. It's crazy. But the chapter was good. I enjoyed it. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. By the way, I did make a video 2 days ago talking about or explaining every Shinjutsu in Boruto, and I think you guys might find it interesting. So if you are interested, you know, check out that video and let me know your thoughts on that video as well. But with that said, drop a like. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.